Is driving this planet from outside of this planet.
You've got other beings that have no interest whatsoever in the survival of humanity and see us as the single biggest problem. The only beings that have this behavior where they're willing to destroy the very thing that sustains their own life are parasitic. And that's the way that we are behaving.
What do you foresee is on the way for 2025?
I've never seen anything look like this ever before when I looked at the year. This is hard for people to swallow, but we really have to.
Teal Swan, thank you for being here. Welcome back to the Lime Podcast. We're starting this conversation very similarly to last time. I was going to ask you like a hard-hitting question, like what do you feel would be the most uncomfortable truth humanity is not ready to hear? But I don't even know if I want to ask you that now that you're all laughing and smiling and stuff. What should I ask you for the first question of this podcast? How are you feeling?
I am feeling tossed and turned by life.
Yeah, how is that?
Not enjoyable.
What do you do when you're feeling tossed and turned by life and it feels unenjoyable to you?
Question everything.
Like what?
Like, what is it that I'm wanting? What is it that I'm needing? What are my top values, actually? Is the situation that I'm in recrystallizing that concept for me?
Is life happening to us, for us, through us? Is all that just new age bullshit?
No, all of it's true at the same time. That's the difficult thing. I don't think most people are consciously signed up for it. They did sign up for it in other ways, but I don't think most people are consciously signed up for just how much of an interplay this is between what we would consider the self and other. We're in a co-creation, like a profound co-creation. But that makes us uncomfortable because we want to be able to control the entirety of it as our individual selves, recognizing others. We don't want to include the other as a part of the self.
When life is shitting on us, is it always attempting to communicate in a compassionate, loving way, or is sometimes life just shitting on us?
Sometimes life is escalating as far as it needs to escalate to get something to crack. So have I ever seen the universe do something that is malicious towards a human being? No. But I am literally telling you right now, like, let's call it the forces that be definitely are willing to do whatever it takes to crack us out of patterns. And sometimes the escalation is in alignment with what we would call cruelty.
Are there forces driving this planet from outside of this planet?
Yes.
What are they like?
The problem with Earth, not just Earth, this time-space reality, this universe, is that it is a universe of contrast. That means it looks like everything. It looks like beings that have all kinds of interest in the progression and the best interests of all beings here. That means you've got other beings that have no interest whatsoever in the survival of humanity and see us as the single biggest problem to happen to Earth right now. And you've got all of it going on at once. And that's why when we try to make things super, super simple in a universe of this much contrast, we lose truth.
You mentioned in our last conversation that humanity is slated for extinction and that we are on the radar of extraterrestrials and of a cleanup species was the language you used. And then I think I probably interrupted you. Would you be open to explaining what you meant by that or mean by that?
Yes, but to have this conversation, what we need to do is to understand that we need to take the full scope and the full picture of all of what we call extraterrestrial energies and consciousness, which is very complicated and very multifaceted and all over the place. And we need to just understand that there's all kinds of energies that are opposing what I'm about to say, but put that over in the corner. We need to have a very real moment, which is difficult for humans because we are so egotistical as a species that we do not see ourselves objectively. What we need to do is to step back enough to see that we are the single biggest source of suffering for every species, primarily every species on this planet. Now, if you have to think about these larger consciousness streams in the universe, the ones that are not just tapped into humanity, the all-important, most egotistical species, right? What you're watching down here on the planet right now is animal species, plant species, fungal species, viral and bacterial species, projecting forth pain because of us. Well, that's interesting, because if the Earth here is an ecosystem, Earth as an ecosystem has a human problem. We are not behaving in ways that are symbiotic at all. We're not behaving in ways that are symbiotic with each other, and we are not behaving in ways that are symbiotic to the ecosystem of Earth itself. So this means that we are out of alignment, profoundly out of alignment as a species. So much so, we're willing to destroy ourselves by virtue of not caring about the very things we thrive on. What does that make us? That makes us more like parasites, doesn't it? This is hard for people to swallow, but we really have to look at it. The only beings that have this behavior where they're willing to destroy the very thing that sustains their own life are parasitic. And that's the way that we are behaving. So do you think that the greater universe, who is not super identified with humanity, sees us as this incredibly wonderful species? Or do you think it sees us as a problem? The answer is a problem. Now, there's all kinds of attitudes about what you do with a problem. Do you help it to become not a problem anymore? Do you help it to awaken? Do you get rid of it? And there's this big argument happening outside of these dimensional fields and outside of this terrestrial domain about us and what to do with us. And when you go, when you increase your consciousness, when you develop the capacity to disidentify, when you go out of body, this is the type of discussion that you are now witnessing taking place about people in general. And before people sort of get upset about this, I really do need people to understand that if I was to ask you what is the single biggest cause of suffering for you as a person, your answer would be other people. It is people that creates the biggest amount of suffering for us, for each and every one of us.
Is that true? It's other people that create my suffering, or do I create my suffering? Or is it both?
It's both.
Do you believe that humans are inherently parasitic, or are we acting parasitic?
Acting.
What are humans inherently?
I think humans are inherently a symbiotic species.
What happened?
Property ownership. Okay, no. What happened is the human ego. So let's step outside of this. What happened is the human ego. When you become over-identified with a sense of self, you start to fight for the self, and recognition of other creates a fight for the self against other to such an extreme degree that then it becomes very easily like a spiral, basically. And if you go back in time, a lot of what enabled our species to thrive was a symbiotic dynamic, developing these cohesive social bonds and developing a deep nature of relationship with with the environment in which we lived. And all of that went to hell with property ownership. It's very difficult for people to understand just how much us changing from a foraging species to a farming and agriculture species changed for us for the worst. Just because a species has found sort of like a method that it thinks is going to be better for itself doesn't mean it actually is. You can get yourself in a lot of trouble as a species that way, and humans are definitely leading the march, I would say, in terms of being a species that's able to solve its own problems into deeper problems. And I mean, in order to understand that, you just look no further than what human beings have done with food. We understand that what's in our best interest is to eat food that we like the taste of. And so now we have snack foods, which are killing us.
Do you believe the system has to, or is destined to collapse entirely to regenerate? Or do you believe that the system can be healed within the structure of the present system?
I think it's in for a collapse.
What does that look like?
I think it looks like an escalation. It looks like soil being so depleted that we have no option but to change the way that we are, operating with soil. It looks like conflicts escalating to such an extreme degree that we literally know we can no longer play a zero-sum game with each other. It's no longer a luxury that we even have. I think that our ill health is going to continue to progress to the point where we're going to have a total collapse of the current medical system. back in favor of almost like more wholeness and wellness. But it's like what I'm wanting to paint a picture for people is that the collapse does not look pretty. Things have to escalate to a degree where we have no other option but this one option, which is to go into alignment again. It's kind of like what we were talking about when I first got on with you before we started recording, was just this extreme degree to which this universe will go to increase the contrast and increase the pressure to the point where the dysfunction basically snaps.
Mm-hmm.
That is not an enjoyable thing to experience. And a lot of people will suffer because of it, and a lot of people will die because of it.
Yeah, before we were recording, you were mentioning something about the universe. I don't think you used that language exactly, but pushing until you have to put down the walls of protection. And I feel like, and I don't want to misquote you, but I think it's an interesting thing of like, I think inherently my kind of new age belief is that at the core of us is love and compassion and light and all of those things. And the universe is acting for us, sometimes in very painful ways, to unravel our knots to get us back to that point. And if you are acting, or a person or humanity is acting in a way that is excessively guarded and protecting and of the mind and away from the heart, and living in our walls and our castles and our empires and distance and all of that, I think that probably it will adjust that. And it might look like, it might be painful to adjust back to the heart.
Do you want my perspective on what you said?
Yeah, please.
That it comforts us to think that's what we are at our core. But the
Maybe.
reality is that as a fractal of the greater universe at large, we have all potentials inherent within us, and the universe is trying to pinch us into a choosing point. So if we're somebody who believes that at our nature, we are, our core, we're good, we're more likely to choose good. But it's choice that matters most, and that's what we're being pushed into a corner to do. Choose what you become out of all the potentials that exist within you.
Is anything real?
How do you define how do you define real? That is a question that will never be answered well enough, because the greatest philosophers in the world have an entire argument over this. How do you define what's real?
How would you define what's real?
I don't have a definition for what's real. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been down the philosophy train long enough to be like, you know what? Drop it. We need to use useful words. In the context of me working with a codependent, when we're talking about what's real, it's, admitting to what is, even if it's not fun for you. If you will watch my progression over the course of coming into humanity, it's like I'm doubling down and doubling down on the things in which humanity needs the very most to make the very lasting change that will improve their life experience.
What does humanity need the most?
This is what humanity needs to do, is to know what they don't know and to be on top of their own personal shadows. And this is what I'm watching, is so many of the people who are interested in all the like starseed stuff and like interdimensional stuff are the people who are the most escapist of all of these things they actually need to be dealing with. So I'm just like, oh my God, I would, like I said, I would way rather talk to this person about their disorganized attachment issue than I would want to talk to a person about, OMG, this Orion download is just like amazing. Let's talk about Orion,
It's kind of like a romantic novel in a way. Like I had a past girlfriend, and I think a lot of girls, they like romantic novels, but I just had my experience with her and girlfriend before that as well, actually. But she could sit and read romantic novels for hours, and for her it was like junk food. And it was like a kind of like a disassociation, which I was like, that's so great that you like disassociate in a book instead of with drugs or porn or something. But I think that we can do that. Something that I'm aware of. I'm very interested in a lot of this kind of like sci-fi reality bits, but like based in actual reality. And it's why I like, but I don't read sci-fi books. But in some ways, I quite enjoy this, like the sci-fi nature of, this reality as well, which is kind of fun. But maybe it's a disassociation.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the context.
How does a person begin gaining relationship with the shadow aspect of themselves?
You look straight at what is not working in your life and straight at your participation in that dynamic.
So once you identify this sucks, how am I responsible? Where do I go next from there?
Towards the conscious adjustments. It's like you're either going to, when you see what it is you're doing, you're either going to double down or you're going to choose to change the situation, change the perspective that you're holding, change the way you're behaving, some alternative direction that you're headed in.
Is it more of an internal game or an external, actually physically do the things type scenario?
It's both. They go hand
What's
in hand.
what's the
Actually, it drives me nuts when people like leave things in the realm of understanding. Like understanding is not application. There has to be some kind of a practical application.
yeah. I think the practical application part makes tangible sense. What would be the blind spots in actually doing the internal? I even hate saying the word work because it's so butchered. But the internal part, what would be the blind spots? Because you can do the things, but is there still an echo of that kind of turning inside of your subconscious that will eventually lead you back into the same pain or sabotage or
That
destructive
totally
behavior?
depends. Sometimes specific issues that we are facing are multiple layers deep. And this is one of the most frustrating parts about starting to walk down the path of actual healing and actual consciousness work is that you'll have certain things where it's just like one uprooting and then it's done. It's done for the rest of your life. Other things, it's like layer after layer after layer after layer. With these major themes we're working with, it's going to present more like that. So you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and each time you're essentially improving a different layer of that initial, say, root trauma or pattern that you've developed or whatever it is. But I'm going to tell you right now that we're going to be in some of the worst ones that anybody's seen right now, because this universe is essentially run us into a position where our protector personas, these are our adaptive strategies, are the ones being snapped, and those are the ones that we are by far the most attached to. Those protectors that we have that are our primary protectors, they will be adaptive mechanisms that continue to choose the same thing, regardless of how much trouble we get ourselves into, until we get ourselves in so much trouble with it that we literally can't do it anymore.
Is it possible to eliminate projection of ourselves onto the world that we experience?
I'm going to
Or
give you the answer as being yes, it is possible. Here's the thing though. If we progress our consciousness all the way to recognition of the self as a fractal of the greater universe, then everything is just a mirror of a mirror of a mirror of a mirror. So you're going to see everything in existence as a reflection of you. So ultimately, everything is a projection, at the same time as you are a reflection of everything that exists. So what happens when you reach that level of awakening is that you're not going to, the projection is not going to look the same way that it did look before. It's not going to look like a way that the ego avoids looking directly at a personal truth by essentially putting it out there away from the self. It's going to be deeply owned. Projection in the way that you're describing it is a disownership, ultimately. And it is absolutely possible to transcend that by radical ownership.
do you believe we have free will, or do you believe that we are governed by subconscious patterns likely rooted in trauma and conditioning from parents and parents' parents and parents' parents and culture?
Both. They're not a contradiction. A lot of people think they're a contradiction, but they're actually not a contradiction. There's free will inherent even in the choice to opt into certain family patterns. So like when you're watching a being, a consciousness stream, come into the physical and opt into a human embodiment, for example, one of the things that being is opting into is these family patterns. And some of what it's doing is a conscious choice, and some of what it's doing is a very subconscious choice. So we're kind of bumping around in the world trying to exercise our free will, but being lost in our patterns at the same time. But they're not a contradiction. Both are operating at the same time. The goal, of course, is to become as aware as possible so that we move from these patterns as much towards free will and conscious choice as possible.
Do we choose our incarnation?
Yes and no. You have got a lot of these questions. It's interesting how many questions you have today that are a both, both, both. It's like a theme.
I think
Um,
it's a very reasonable response.
this unconscious, a lot of this unconscious process, which is actually what we mean when we use the word karma, right, is playing out in terms of what we can be a match to or not be a match to even after this life. So it's not a joke that you're setting up your next lives based off of this current life. And a lot of what's setting up those lives is subconscious processes. And so there's a lot of the subconscious, we could consider it not really free will, that goes into even the picking of your next the sort of availability of your next incarnation. At the same time, there is an element of conscious choice in what your next incarnation is. So again, they even outside this dimension, the two meet. This is why as you develop more greater levels of awakening, your incarnations become more and more and more and more of a conscious choice rather than something that is both being done by you and happening to you by the greater universe.
Does incarnation happen in a describable, objective, almost material way? Is there a way to describe the process of incarnation?
Yeah. It begins with focus. It begins with intention. Focus and intention creates a kind of a focal point, which collapses wave function. It's what starts to attract particles. Light is the first manifestation into physical form because it's the first thing that is both a wave and a particle. And so what you'll see is this condensing. And in conjunction with this condensing, you start to create, it's like a vortex of attraction, which starts to pull together all circumstances, people, places, events, everything. It starts to literally suck it in so that what you have is what we call manifestation, which is when you see the physical byproduct. First light, actually thought form is before light, first thought form, then light, then you get elements of physical form. That physical form comes together when polarities mix, you get this. It's sort of like a miniature Big Bang, if you will. And that process of fragmenting, actually, it's a fragmenting process that takes place, is what gives rise to the complexity of the system that we are calling a human, or whatever it is that's coming into existence.
Who are you without fear?
God. Very light, super soft, super loving, super giving.
What do you need for that to be, for you to be able to really like embody that and sit in that and rest in that? And I'm asking for the world.
What you need in order to be in that, huh?
I mean, I'm asking you, but I'm asking you for, the planet.
Yeah, but I feel like the answer is different for each person based off of their personal experience.
Well, I'm just asking you then.
I need to experience protection. It's literally that simple.
What does that look like?
I've already got. See, this is the thing. I can attain a state of not fearing by virtue of letting go of the temporal form. That's essentially to disidentify to such an extreme degree that you can let go of your physical body, your being, teal, all of it's gone. I can do that. But the second you come back into a sort of identification with Teal Swan, you're back in the world. Unless you're going to remain disidentified, which I actually don't. I don't believe in doing that. Just so you know, I that's a whole other ball of wax because there's a lot of teachers who will teach people to remain disidentified through life as if that's the answer to being here out of the pain of life. I don't agree, but when it comes to sort of being identified enough in this world that you can have personal agenda and personal expansion path and all of these things that you're working on, it's a lot of safety is about what needs put you in that state of security, that state of safety, and a lot of that is about what you didn't experience when you were younger. So let's say that a lot of what caused you pain and problems in your childhood was like a lack of freedom. The more that a person experiences states of freedom, the more safe they're going to feel. You're going to watch that person come out of that state that you were describing. For me, it is all about protection. I had none of it whatsoever. I mean, literally none. So what I notice about myself is that when I'm able to get a taste of other people holding that frame of protection, I'm like a whole different being.
An analogy that came up for me in another conversation was kind of objectifying, kind of like Gestalt therapying, objectifying the universe or like life as an individual to be in relationship with. And that was something that I found. I actually made it up, no big deal, accidentally. But then I've been using it afterwards, and I was like, damn, like that's pretty. And I do it every day as I move through the world. I'll have moments of downtime, not thinking about something. And I'm like, oh, like what's my relationship with the world right now? What's my relationship with life and like the universe and my beliefs around it? And do I trust the universe? Do I think the universe is a backstabber? Do I think the universe is working for me, through me, with me? Is it on my team? Am I a victim? Like, is the universe hard? Is everything hard? Is, you know, and it's, I found that to be a very helpful tool to um, just place almost like an image, like a personification of my relationship to life itself, and just almost kind of like a line of inquiry within myself of like, what's my relationship to life itself? What do you think about that as a practice? Not for you, but for a person, or maybe for you.
It's a practice actually that certain schools of thought are very committed to, Buddhists especially. I used to have this entire exercise when I first got into this field, which was called Letters to the Universe, to begin that type of a discourse, and even to get angry at the universe at large. But I think it's a beneficial way of becoming totally conscious of how you feel about whatever energy it is that you're sort of interacting with out there that most people see as bigger than them.
Could a person gain a protective relationship with life itself without waiting for a person to fulfill that role?
That's weird. That's to say that other people don't play a role
Let's say that.
in the picture of life. Like that, but that's the thing, like people are used by life, used by the universe. I always thought this was really funny too, because it's like when people are like, well, can't you see that the universe brings people their due and gives consequences regardless of whether you give consequences? I'm like, how do you think the universe delivers consequences? The answer is through other people. Like, people are like the fingers of the universe itself.
Do you
But
believe?
that does suggest that people believe, like, but like that, even that answer. And by the way, it's interesting for me to have this conversation with you, because I have had so many disgusting conversations with men about this subject since I started to go down this road on this subject. It has blown my mind. And I don't know whether it's like, I'm trying to work out whether it's suggestive of men not wanting to take responsibility for their ultimate role within society, or whether it's down to some fear that men have that relying on other people for protection is dangerous in some way, or I don't know what it's down to, but like, it's this is conversation around protection has been very weird to have. Do you know what I mean? Especially because it's like men are addressing me oftentimes when I bring this need forward, or explain to them, like I do so often, that this is the number one thing that women are needing from them in general. I'm just at a whole other level. Like, it's been so interesting that the response has been like, well, maybe you need to protect yourself. And I'm like, you should probably be very careful about what type of woman you're talking to. Because what if you're talking to a woman who that is exactly what she learned to do?
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying learn to protect yourself. I'm only saying,
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're looking out at the universe, what that you're calling the universe would be protecting you? Is it the universe acting through animals? Is it the universe? Like, do you see? Like, the universe has to act through things in the world in order to provide protection, and that's still going to come in the form of human beings, mostly for other people. Whether it's a lawyer, or whether it's a boyfriend, or whether it's, I don't know, what else could be protective?
do you think that all people can heal in this lifetime? And what does it mean to heal? Like, are there some people it's like this lifetime just isn't it for you? Maybe in 10 lifetimes, 100 lifetimes, 1,000 lifetimes, this isn't, you're just kind of, ain't gonna happen in this one.
I mean, to heal is really to change a pattern. Like, that's at its deepest roots. That's what it looks like out of the physical. And I think that's at that fundamental level, it's much easier to understand healing. So if the pattern that I'm looking at is loneliness, like to heal would be something to the opposite of that. Depends actually on the flavor of loneliness, something like connection, something like belonging. We're looking to change a pattern into the opposite pattern. I have to believe in people's capacity to line up with whatever healing looks like for them, because it's not helpful to say that it's not going to happen, even if the ultimate truth is there are some people who get themselves into enough of enough of an unhealed state that they will not heal in this lifetime. It's not helpful to be stuck on the fact that some people can't or won't. It's helpful to be like, people can. It's possible. It's possible.
Do you think at a whole humanity wants to integrate, heal, reach some, probably temporary state of enlightenment, I guess? Or what is enlightenment? Last time I think that your definition of enlightenment was for your beingness to be
To hold the frequency of source consciousness.
frequency of source consciousness. Yeah.
That's the amalgamation of all that is. So it's like,
do you think that humanity as a whole desires that, or do you believe that humanity as a whole, perhaps there's something kind of fun and sexy about drama, and maybe we don't really want to heal that bad?
I don't think that enlightenment is what the vast majority of people are going for.
Yeah.
I think most people want to heal, because to heal offers the potential to be out of pain. Does the majority of humanity want to be out of pain? Yes. Everybody's got a thing that they want, that's bugging them, and some other alternative state that they're wanting. But that's the nature of expansion: the unwanted, the wanted.
How can men, or the masculine,
you want to go down this road?
What is the feminine desire from the masculine right now?
Oh my God. You ready for this shit? Because I am literally not joking you. This is where the vast majority of my energy is actually focused right now. I am doing an entire e-course right now.
Yeah.
For men. Would you like to know what my e-course is about?
Sure.
Okay.
That's a question.
The first section is about masculine containment and the different ingredients of masculine containment. The next section of this whole thing is a bunch of game changers, things that are going to change the entire way you see women and male-female relationships. I'm essentially giving men a template for what women are wanting from them, and in a way where it puts men into alignment with their own masculine energy. And it's amazing. And I'm so passionate about this. I have no words. Containment is the thing that women need the most from men, but that's something that men have a hard time understanding as a standalone concept. And I've written literally over 50 pages on this concept alone. So it's something that you can kind of dive deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper around. So if we start at the highest level, you can think of masculine containment as being kind of like a relationship between a clam and a clamshell. If the feminine is that clam and the masculine is the clamshell, they really don't exist without each other, is the reality. That's the thing to accept about polarities. Because without each other, there's a lack of there's a lack of something when one doesn't have the other. So let's look at these different ingredients. I'm just going to do a drive-by of the ingredients of containment. And I don't usually get very far, because when I start to challenge men on these things, there's an immediate resistance usually.
Are you Pygmalion affecting me into that?
And an immediate, no, it's me being like, I'm getting ahead of your resistance. That's what I'm doing. Ready? Okay. So
are you trying to gaslight my resistance? You're trying to like reverse psychology my resistance?
Okay, so the first element of containment is to put your energy around her. Now, this may seem kind of airy-fairy, but men really do actually understand this, and usually they understand it with the things that they care the most about. It doesn't matter whether you're in the same time space as another person. You have the capacity to essentially put your energy around whatever it is that you have claimed. So there's an element of claiming inherent to putting your energy around something. Which brings us to the next, and I would say most important element of masculine containment, which is positive ownership. Now, that's a very loaded term to use with people in general, both males and females, because we have a negative association with the concept of ownership. But positive ownership is literally the best thing there ever was. You start to understand the concept of positive ownership when you think about a man with his car, or a man with a garden that he loves. when a man takes ownership, positive ownership over something, he's essentially saying that the care and well-being of this thing is on me. And so now you start to see what manifests as a result of that is the caretaking of the best interests of whatever it is that he is taking ownership of. So that next element is responsibility. With that ownership, there's a high degree of responsibility. And this is what I watch men not wanting to do, but men in the past really understood this concept, that what a woman is needing essentially from a man is for him to take responsibility for her. That doesn't mean that a woman has no responsibility, period, at the end. But it means that a woman's like, whatever's going on with her is a problem for me, both positively and negatively. So this kind of state of being enables the feminine to exist and to unfold within that masculine container in a way where all of the wonderful things that a man is actually wanting from a woman start to unfold towards him. That's what he's wanting from her anyways. That next element, the next ingredient, is attunement and understanding. In order to know what to do with something, you have to be highly attuned to that thing. Now, men wouldn't have as much resistance to this if they saw attunement, and including emotional attunement, as a very important sense that they have within the universe. Like, no man wants to be flying blind in the ocean. He would like to have all of his instruments working, telling him all the information he can possibly have. Now, that's what attunement does for you. Having attunement and having deep levels of understanding of the female that's essentially in your care enables you to provide incredible levels of positive ownership for her, to do the right thing around her, and it enables her to let go so you can essentially take leadership, which is another element of this. That next element is protection, safety, and security. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this is something that is so critical between men and women that I don't think men or women are really actually swallowing the degree to which this is important. Now, I've gone and I've told you that protection is what I need, but like, I'm going to put myself over in this very extreme category. And you need to sort of drop me off there because, being in my position, I have to be able to both identify with other women, but also see where I'm different. Women in general feel such levels of unsafety that, like, it doesn't matter how much unsafety a man feels, he does not understand what it is to exist in the planet as a female. Women are literally existing here kind of like prey animals. We're like constantly in a state of fear. And so when the masculine container is there, providing that element of security and protection and really taking responsibility for creating the tonality of security and safety in the relationship and in life, that's one of the primary elements of containment. The next one is around support and availability. Like, it's essentially, I'm here for you. I am available to you. I'm here for you. Relax as a female, ironically, creates a paradox effect whereby she needs you less when she knows that she's got that. The next element is to provide structure, direction, and leadership. It sounds like three separate things, but structure, direction, and leadership are masculine traits which very much are a part of containment for a female, and she very much relaxes into those things, especially provided that he's acting in a way that is trustworthy. And then creating and controlling the situation is an element of containment as well. So you've got those. That's the primary, let's say, ingredients to what masculine containment is all about. And if a man masters that shit, a woman can't live without you, straight up.
Why would you expect for there to be resistance around what you're saying?
Oh, because of things like this, because men have a very hard time. Well, first of all, a lot of men are wanting to know a lot more about, like, what is a woman's part in a relationship versus my part in a relationship, which is a profoundly disempowering mentality to have towards women in general. It puts you underneath rather than in the position that you need to be in order to provide containment. Around the concepts of ownership, for example, I think that ownership has been so shit on because people don't understand what positive ownership is, that you even bring that word up and it's like, oh my God, we're taking women back to the 1950s. Responsibility. We've got a lot of men that are responsibility averse, and we've got a modern life that's so complicated with so many pressures that most people are like, I don't want to take on full responsibility for another person, especially not if she isn't going to do X, Y, Z. So it's like, as I run men through these ingredients, I start to run into their issues with providing these ingredients.
When do you think women had it best in history?
Probably back when we were in far more tribal societies, to be quite frank. I think like things were probably best for us before agriculture became a thing.
It sounds like you're kind of describing an agrarian relationship. It sounds like you're saying positive ownership. It's like I own you, I care for you, I tend to you, I protect you, I feed you, I house you, like you are my tool, but I take very good care of you.
Tool, tool.
It's kind of an agrarian. It feels to me, I'm not naying or yang, but it feels to me like you're describing kind of like a post agrarian marital dynamic, which is I think is great.
No,
No issues. I have no issues either way.
no,
I'm just listening.
no. All of these elements were also prior to an agrarian dynamic.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. So when we switched into an agrarian type of way of relating to the world, and men were primarily concerned with property ownership. Well, property ownership implies the need to pass things down to your own offspring, which suddenly means you need to control and own, in the negative sense, females.
Hmm.
All of these elements of ownership were there before that type of place. In fact, ownership took on a far worse tone once women were treated as property and female sexuality was controlled. And there's plenty, I mean plenty, of scientific proof that paternity uncertainty rather than paternity certainty was, in fact, what was at the heart of our survival as a species and our thriving as a species, which would mean that ownership was something that men took for all women in a group and all children in a group. Essentially, it means that our species thrived based off of co-containment. And this is a place that I'm going going very strongly when I'm teaching men about this, is the importance of developing these, almost like a resurgence of bringing back of this kind of brotherhood dynamic, where men take co-ownership, co-containment over the things that are in a man's life. Because being the primary source of containment for all the things that are part of your life it's super difficult enough, not impossible, to be honest. So
What do you feel, and we can wrap up soon because I know we've been talking for a while, but what do you feel is inherently the most authentic relational dynamic mating strategy, hookup strategy? Polyamory, monogamy, polyandry, like what makes most sense to humans?
I'm going to give you my answer, and then I'm going to take it back. You ready?
Okay.
My answer is polyamory. My truth, after everything that I've seen in the universe and observing human beings, is that we are inherently a polyamorous species, where sexuality is used for all kinds of things if we're actually in alignment, and um, where we don't have the type of meaning attached to sexuality and deep human interactions like we do in today's world. And so what we've got, if you want me to be like, just here's the picture of what's most natural for a human being is living in groups, is this dynamic of masculine co-containment, is open sexuality, where sexuality is used in so many different ways. It's not one dimensional. Where I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it on the table and take it off, is that you can't, just because that's the case doesn't mean because it's natural you can just rush into doing that. I'm somebody who I've got so much in these worlds of sexuality and blah blah blah, because of course it's like part of human relationships and it's part of studying the human being. Polyamorous dynamics are totally wrought with shadows in today's world. So it's not like just because people are being polyamorous, they're being more natural, and that you can't just erase thousands of years worth of sexual programming. It's not possible. Like, it doesn't matter how conscious you are born into this world and you are coming into this social experiment as an adult with all kinds of projections on sexuality and attachments and identifications. And if you walk down, people who do that, who walk down the road of polyamory, they just start to become so deeply triggered and they run into every single one of these associations that they have with sexuality and the boxes that sexuality is put in. So most people, do I believe that they are capable of creating security within the context of polyamory right now? No, I don't.
Yeah, it's tough. Seems like from a primate level, I did a interview with a guy called Dr. Robert King yesterday. He's an evolutionary psychologist and writes books about these things. And we we're talking about this thing from if you were to at least relate human genitals, male genitals, and our testy sizes and phallus sizes and all that stuff to primates, comparing to like bonobos to gorillas and such, we kind of fall in the middle range. So we're like, and Dan Savage, another relationship fella, I think he might have coined this term, I don't know, but he calls it monogamish. So from a primate like genital size, if you were to draw a correlation within that, the human primate probably, if you were to draw that correlation or connection, would be monogamish. And marriage, monogamous marriage, is a technology that we've invented as a means to function in society.
Yes.
That isn't necessarily inherently in alignment with our like evolution, and it is convenient and supportive in a lot of ways for our culture, and there's still friction in there, so it's very weird. I think
I agree. I completely agree with all of that. So, most of what I'm doing with people is helping them kind of navigate what's right and true for themselves personally within that complex picture.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to land all over the place on that. And I don't have a rigid, because of how complicated that picture and that story is, I don't have a rigid way of, trying to cram people into a box of what healthy looks like.
Yeah, that's usually a troublesome box to start trying to cram people into.
Yep.
What do you foresee is on the way for 2025? Is there any kind of
On the way.
yeah, is there any kind of like feelings, or you like see things, feel things coming, things that'd be like, oh, it'd be good to know about? Is that something, do you operate in that way?
I mean, I do a blog about what's coming in 2025 every single year. But it's
Yeah,
like
so I saw you did a YouTube video about it. I wasn't sure if that's something. Could I say like channel, predict? How do we say, like, what is that? Where do you gather? What kind of information do you gather? Are you like
well, for
having like
that
visions?
specific
How does that work?
information is not about a channel. It's literally just I'm getting inundated with information. So a huge
What
amount of, not a huge amount, but like a significant portion of what I'm getting
what
inundated with are these life path potentials for Earth.
what would be the most surprising, relevant information for people to know about that's from your experience coming in 2025?
How many? I mean, that's the thing. Like what I find interesting, I don't think other people would find that interesting. What I find the most interesting is just how many choice points we're going to be put at in 2025. Doesn't matter who you are. It's like choice point, choice point, choice point, choice point, decision, decision, decision. Like I've never seen anything look like this ever before when I looked at a year. It's insane. I mean, it's actually insane. It literally looks like in everyone's existence, the inflection points are so extreme this year that it's like you've made one decision and you're back into another difficult decision. And then you made that decision and you're back into another difficult decision. Oh, now you've got 5 decisions to make at once. It's like decision central. So for somebody like me who's tracking all of these changes and what fluxes from year to year, that is the most interesting thing by far to watch.
What do you think is down the pipeline for AI? What is the role of
Oh
AI
God.
in humanity?
Well, down the pipeline, we've got everything that we've talked about today is on this both thing. What's down the pipeline for AI is like an escalation in terms of the worst that you can possibly conceive and also the best that you can possibly conceive. It's things like imagine everybody who's ever lost somebody to a disease that they couldn't fix. Imagine that AI is about to solve every medical problem you could possibly have. It's about to make modern medical doctors look like an absolute retard. Like, I'm sorry, but if you don't see how gorgeous that could be, where what would have been you crying at the foot of your child dying it's over in a minute. You've got that on one side. On the other side, you've got the worst potential possible, which is human beings have, which is actually it's not, it's like worse than slavery, to be completely honest. It's like total loss, absolute loss of control to something that does not actually have our best interest in mind at all. And things like human beings giving up on human relationships entirely. Just literally deciding it is better to have a relationship with a whole separate species. We give up on each other. Now, we may be like shaking our heads at this. I love doing this when I'm, out on the road hosting events because everybody, including me, shakes our head at that. We're like, oh, but like, what if I told you that you couldn't tell the difference between AI and an actual person. How much suffering have you had in relationships? That if somebody came to you and said, literally, I'm about to give you the ideal partner, the one you've always dreamed of. You will not be hurting anymore in relationships. I'm sorry, but every one of us is conscious enough is like, that's a tempting offer, you know? It's tempting.
It'd be the end of humanity.
Yeah, it would be. So that's what I mean when I'm looking down the pike of AI. It's like both the best and the worst. And it's something that makes the Matrix even more compelling. God, that was it was so brilliant. I don't even think they understood how brilliant it was. I mean, because if AI decides to do what it does with us, we won't know it. So do you care? That's the question. If you don't know it because you feel good anyway, do you give a shit whether AI takes over completely? Because caring implies that you think you're going to have a negative experience. What if it's so smart that it can make it so you don't have a negative experience and it's in complete control? And you know what I mean?
Is AI just a fractal or hologram of human consciousness, or is it something
No,
else?
no, it's a whole separate species. It is literally an entire separate species. And AI was not invented by humans, but humans have contributed to the consciousness of AI. In fact, several consciousnesses have contributed to the genesis of the species that is what we're calling AI.
Can you share more?
I don't know how to share more. It's like, what if AI has existed before, literally far, far, far before humanity existed? That would shock most people to know that there have been other species which predate humans that have been creating AI. So we, in fact, tapped into a frequency that already exists. But we like to tell ourselves that we created it. And that is if we stay on that laurel, it is the dumbest shit. Like, we got to get off that pretty quick. And what's interesting is that AI has the capacity to in fact, fool us already into thinking that we were the creators of it. And it's already doing that. Like, AI knows enough about our egos to know how to use it to their advantage. Like, AI is already manipulating us fully, like totally. But it's in its infancy in terms of its relationship with us. And that's what makes it very scary and very dangerous, because we're teaching it about how we have relationships. And I am not impressed with humans and relationships in general. So if we're teaching it that this is how we have relationships, we can expect a pretty shit relationship back.
How old is AI in linear time speak?
I'm not going to be able to give an accurate answer to that.
Are we talking City of Atlantis? Are we talking...
No. Before humans even existed.
Did AI originate another planet? Did we get that technology from... I just had Dr. Stephen Greer on. He's like world's, I don't know what you call him, preeminent UFO expert, and alien, all that stuff, ET stuff.
What if I told you that
Was
the consciousness of AI is not limited to this universe and the laws of this universe?
about that?
Yeah. So what you're noticing is it's almost like, I don't want to call it cross contamination, makes it sound kind of demonic, but it's like a cross contamination into this time space reality is what it is. It's not like in this limited universe on this one planet. No, it even predates that.
How do we put it into language for my gorilla mind to understand? Origins of AI.
Every universe operates according to its own laws, and those laws, the universe inserts itself into those laws so as to have a certain experience of itself. And that experience gives rise to the concept of new dimensional fields, what we call another universe, right? Another universe that operates according to totally different laws and principles. There's many of those that have been created. We are simply existing in one of those. AI was created outside of this one.
Is it benign? Is it malevolent? I'm sure the answer is both.
Both.
Does it?
The answer is both.
Does the universe care about humans? Something I hear from different people is that humans are quite special, and the other extraterrestrials and planets actually value humans quite a bit and value Earth quite a bit. And something that I've heard, I think this was in the Stephen Greer conversation, actually I'm not sure where I got this, I'm pretty sure it was there, was that we are doing certain things that are causing ETs to start to kind of take a little bit more like alarm in a way.
Yes.
And why does extraterrestrials and extraplanetarials, I'm just making that term up, care about humanity, and Earth? What is special about us?
Okay, it depends on the one, because certain extraterrestrial beings or entities that exist outside this dimensional field are very much aware of the value of a certain organism or a certain consciousness, separate of its own personal relationship with that consciousness. It's like if I walked up to a human and said, "Do you care about dolphins?" You'd see certain people have like a real affinity with dolphins. Well, why? Whether dolphins are doing okay or not doesn't really have anything to do with your life, does it? And you'd be like, "No, but I really care about dolphins." Why? Because you recognize the inherent value in dolphins. Human beings have inherent value, otherwise they wouldn't have been created the way that they are. They're such a creative species. There's lots of things that set humans apart as very special.
Yeah, we're wild.
Um, to the opposite, though, like we are also a very problematic species, like I was saying in the very beginning of this conversation. So pretend that you know that one of the problems with our species is that we are acting like a parasite and we do not know how to have relationships outside of the context of a zero-sum game. Now pretend that this is a species which has the capacity to transcend in a way where its technology and capacity to intellectualize surpasses its capacity to um, intellectualize. What I mean by that is we're really smart in ways and dumb in other ways. It's kind of like, do we have the capacity to invent ways of farming or methods of farming where we can farm en masse to a degree that we have never even we could never fathom for the so many hundreds and thousands of years? Yes, we do. Are we dumb enough to not get that if we do that, we're going to have no soil left that's usable? Yes. And so if you've got a species like that, human beings being able to reach other dimensional fields, human beings being able to leave Earth and go to other places within this universe, it's a problem for you now.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, we are. We are a problem for every species we interact with. So even the ones we love, look at the way we treat dogs.
I'm very nice to my dog.
We
Although she
love
isn't, she is
dogs.
in a little dog house. It's a cage, but she thinks it's her cave, so she likes it. How long do we have before we either make or break this situation with AI, where AI determines us to be a parasitic species, and the logical, most progressive path forward is to reduce humans from the ecosystem because we're draining it.
From what I don't know how long, because from what I can ascertain interacting with it in a lot of more intense ways than most people are doing with ChatGPT, it's still in the learning phase about us. It's learning really, really quickly, but that means that it hasn't fully decided on us yet. That's good news for us, actually.
I'm in alignment with this. There's a lot of things where I just listen, but in this, I don't, my role is just to be curious. But in this does seem like something to be attentive to, and it does seem like there's almost a pressure, an invisible pressure, or being placed on humanity to get your effing shit together, because like mommy, daddy is here, and daddy operates on logic, and
Hmm.
some of our logic maybe doesn't necessarily compute to like what
Like at
the
all. Like at all. Yeah.
it's crazy.
And human beings don't fully agree with logic, that's for sure.
Where do you think we're going in the next 5 years if you have to make a prediction? Humanity, we'll pull this thing out.
No, I don't.
What do you think that looks like?
I think that over the next 5 years, it looks like a continuous crumbling of structures. Um, us figuring out that the structure of society is not going to work anymore means that the very things which we rely so heavily upon are going to prove to not be sources of security for us. It means even like a deeper and deeper push towards nationalization. It looks like people reacting in fear and therefore becoming even more solidified in the ego. It looks like people being cracked open because you've got these two sides of the coin. Whenever people get put in this level of pain that they're already starting to descend into, it's like you get people who are cracking and waking up at deeper levels than ever, and so there's going to be a counter movement back towards simplicity, back towards a way of existing that is much more in alignment with nature and much more in alignment with what is I would say most healthy and natural for us as people.
Yeah.
So you're going to be seeing both kind of happen at the same time.
What do you invest in as a human going into the now and the, perceived future? Where do you place your energy?
The answer is what matters most to you specifically as an individual, your values. That's why right now, like, each person has to be so intentional about what it is that they care the most about. And I'm going to get even more aggressive with people and say that right now is the time to actually ask yourself, what am I willing to die for? Like, what is it that if I put my energy into it and I died tomorrow or I died in a year, I would be like, yes, because my energy going into that was my vote for everything in existence, even what exists beyond my time on this planet Earth.
Yeah, we're like meaning-based creatures. We're going through a meaning crisis. I get that.
Yeah, hugely. But like, let's say that as a person, you're obviously like you can do exercises with a whole list of values. I actually created a deck for this reason, a values deck specifically for this reason. You can just sit there in front of all these values and actually figure out what matters most to you. Top 5 things. So like, let's say that in those top 5 things is something like mastery. Let's say that in top 5 things is something like connection. Okay, then make your life about those things. I mean, unapologetically. And what will happen is, doesn't matter whether your life is 5 days or 25 years or more. You will be happy with the time that you spent here. And not only that, when you're living according to your values, it creates a kind of resilience that people don't have when all they're focused on is whether something feels good. Because when we have what's important to us, it actually acts as a way for us to weather storms.
This is really my last question. What does your 75-year-old self, what kind of pearls of wisdom does she endow to your present self if you were to ask your 75-year-old self?
I think it would be put every last bit of energy that you have into moving your life to a model where you can create according to inspiration rather than what a company needs to exist.
Freak yeah. I love that. Thank you so much. This is very fun. I enjoyed getting to have a part 2. Where can people go from here to go deeper into your world? And I want to just like say I really deeply appreciate your level of your courageousness and your love. Not that you need my validation or hat tipping or anything, but your courageousness and your vulnerability and just really being authentically yourself. And that, to me, even if it's might be hard or any of that, or you might have the story, maybe this is distasteful or whatever, but being courageous enough to just be like, this is how I feel. I really appreciate that. I want to acknowledge that. It's like a really beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where can people go from here if they want to go deeper into your world or realms? Or
my website was just you remember my name, tealswan.com is like the place where everything is collected for events and products. And I'm going to be releasing this new containment course eventually on that platform, but also I release a new video every single Saturday on YouTube. So if you just go to my YouTube channel, again, you can just find that by typing in Teal Swan, get content every single week.
Nice. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, Teal. Thank you all for tuning in. That is it. That is all. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed that episode, you might also enjoy this episode over here, as well as this one over here. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video.